Okay, I think someone is saying he cannot connect to the class. Why? Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, I want to share my screen. All right. So, today, last week, I gave a summary of the the November 2019 case, the Detroit Farms and Farms Products Limited. You know, so if you have not watched that video, please go and watch the video. It is very, very important. Okay, so today we quickly dive into the steps in writing case study reports. Okay, look at the steps in writing case study reports. Unfortunately, this is what I would do. I would try to, because I have the report written already, so I will use this report to explain it. Okay, so yes, for this class, I want to assume you have in the exam or on the exam day, you have read. Of course, you have read the present before the exam day. So on the exam day, I will advise you not to waste time on the present, because the present is still the same thing with what you were given even before the exam. So you quickly go through to the unseen, read the unseen maybe two, three times, read the requirement very well, break the requirement down. Okay, so once you are done with reading the unseen, you can equally, brush through everything together, maybe just to read the present and the unseen together, if you like, if you have the time. But your reading must be very fast. Your reading should not take more than 1 hour, but I will advise you not to even spend up to 40 minutes, because you have read the present before. So about 40 minutes should be enough for you to read the unseen and do whatever you want to do. Get the what do you call it? Get the unseen and understand the requirement. So those are the key things you need to do. So having done that, then you can start the report writing. So what I've noticed over the years is that students find it difficult to start from a particular place. Like they get confused. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do first, the first thing, the second thing. So they don't really know what to do. Okay, so that is one of the reasons for this class. So if you don't know where to start from, what to start from, then start from the cover page of the report. Okay, so on the cover page, report, you can write report. Then you write to you address the report. Who are you addressing the report to the board of directors. So in the case, we are told to write a report to the board of directors. Okay, let me see if I can quickly flip through to that exhibit 7 or thereabout. So it should be exhibit 7. Let me see. I don't want to waste so much time today. Firms assumpted and okay has been approved by the bishop to do this. You are to carry out this and prepare a report. Okay, you are to carry out a detailed analysis of the management account and prepare a report for DFFP's board. Okay, so you can see we're told to address it to the board of directors, right? Then the other thing is you need to give the report a title. So fine, you can arrange it the way you like. You can start with a title, you can start with to the title. Just you can do it anyhow you like it, but make sure that on your cover page you have all these elements. So how do you come up with a befitting title for your how do you come up with a befitting title for your report? Okay, so this is what you should do. So you should go to the requirement. You should go to the requirement. If you go to the requirement, you will see that these are the two requirements given in this case. Okay, then what you will do is you pick the theme of the two requirements. Just pick the theme of the two requirements. Now let's look at the first requirement: a review of DFSP's management accounts. That is the theme of that requirement. Review DFSP's management account. Then they went ahead to tell us what are those things that you should do. Fine. That is for the but the key thing is the theme of the requirement is a review of management account. That is for that. Then the other one is an assessment of contract supply service. One, an assessment of contract supply service. And if you recall, you will see that we're given terms of the contract. If you could recall, we were given terms of that contract. That is one. Then two, on the requirement two, you are also required. You are also required to do what? To evaluate the proposed strategic business opportunity, that is installation of meat processing plant. So we can now say assessment of contract supply service and evaluation of meat processing plant. Okay, okay, so we can come up with a title that says that a report on the review of DFFC management account, comma, an assessment of the contract supply service and evaluation of the meat processing plant. Okay, that could be our report title. Okay, that could be our report title. Then from where is the report coming from? Of course, since this is an external report, I hope we have all agreed on that, because the report is coming from the firm. You, Shukura Ali, you cannot put your name on the report because you are working under the firm. So it is assumed that the firm is writing the report, not nobody cares about your name in that report, since it's an external report. Of course, if you are working in a firm in practice, your name will never show on the report that is going out to a client. Okay, so it's coming from the firm. Then the you can date your report. Okay, so this is the date your boss gave you the instruction to prepare the report. Okay, so that's that about it. So the last thing on the cover page is a disclaimer. Remember, a disclaimer is one mark, and that is why this disclaimer is very important. Okay, disclaimer is one mark, and it is very, very important. So you write your disclaimer. Okay, right. Once you are done with that, then you leave space for executive summary. Of course, you cannot write the executive summary now. The executive summary is the last thing you will do once you are done with the report. So you will leave a space or two. It depends on your handwriting and what you have practiced before. You can see that in this case, the executive summary is on 2 pages. Okay, okay, and remember, you see, I started my page numbering right from the cover page. Yes, because in exam, that is where you are starting your report from. Start from the cover page. Then if you are leaving 2 pages for your executive summary, so you are leaving page 2 and page 3 blank. Okay, you leave those 2 pages, then you go to the next thing, which is the introduction. So what do you have on the introduction? You can write a brief intro like this. You receive the letter to prepare a report. Then the report outline or table of contents. the report outline or table of content, which should cover, we should include the maybe the cover page, the executive summary, introduction page, then the section one, because after the introduction page now, you are going to section one. Okay. So sorry for this. So the section one should say that, because the section one is on the review of DFFP's management account. So this place, instead of business analysis, it should be a review of DFFP's management account. Then, there are 8 subsections under each section. So under section one, we are supposed to have 8 subsections. But I want to advise you, because this introduction now, there is, in the real sense, there is no mark for it. Okay. So I don't want a situation whereby you focus your energy and waste so much time on it. So instead of writing 8 subsection, and because you don't even know what you will put under the 8 subsection, you don't know the subheadings you will have. So, and if you now decide to leave the space for the later time, once you are done with the report, I'm very sure that the remaining 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you will use it on the executive summary, and you might not have that time to come and fill this up. Well, if you have the time, if you have that time, you can equally leave the space. Okay, you can leave the space. So if you have the time, you can leave the space and go and complete the report before you come back to fill this. But on the other side, I just feel that you can say findings and discussion, conclusions, recommendations. All right, you can do that as well, and you can say section two. For the section two, section two is on, we have to assess contract supply service, assessment of contract supply service, and evaluation of meat processing plan. That should be the heading for the section two. Finding and discussion, conclusion and recommendation. Then appendix should come after the recommendation, because you are going to have your appendix. Then once you are done with the outline, then you should write a brief background of the client you are writing on. Okay. So if you look at exhibit 3, if you look at exhibit 3 if you look at exhibit 3, this is exhibit 2. If you look at exhibit 3, you see that we were given information about uh Detroit farms. Okay. So you just pick something that you feel that whoever that is not a member or a party to the business, what information would they likely want to see in the report. So that's what you will look at. This place is more or less like a copy and paste situation. So you just pick the information and put it there. Okay. You put the information and put it there. So what I've put here is, Dairy was established in January 15 by this person, as given in the exhibit, to venture into agribusiness in Nigeria. It has acquired about 200 hectares of land to fulfill the objectives of the business. The focus of the business is into animal production and vegetable farming. Ever since, the business has grown steadily and has become a household name among the elites, who buy their various protein and vegetable products from supermarket stores and retail malls in Lagos and Ibadan. So this was picked from that exhibit. So you just pick it and put it. So we're told uh a background of the business in our report, in the new syllabus. Okay. So before November 2019, there was nothing like a report template like this. So again, I didn't say this before I started this class. So this report format I'm giving to you is as given by ICANN in the new syllabus. Okay. So that is it. So we're told to put a brief background. And I've also seen some cases, you know, in some institution. Majorly, I've been writing reports for some of my past students doing their MSc in UK, And in their case study coursework, they were also told to put a background of the business. So I think is obviously uh, something we should do when we are writing reports, even in practice, is what we should learn how to do. Okay. Then once you are done with the background, which is equally the which stood at page 4. Okay, that is our page 4. Then the next one is page 5, where you start the, what do you call it, you start the review of DFF's management account. That is where you start. So here, this is where you start. Okay, but you cannot write anything. The first thing you do is to do what, to do your computation, is to do the computation. So how do you go about that? How do you go about the computation? Before you even do the computation, you have to understand what the requirement asks you to do. So let's quickly go back to the requirement and break it down so that we can understand what the requirement asks us to do uh, in that section. So this is the requirement one: a review of DFF's management account. Fine. So the question becomes, what do I review? If you say review, review is a very wide term. Okay, is a very wide term. So what should I look at when I'm reviewing the account? Now they now went ahead to say that your review should comprise of analysis of key changes in revenue, cost, overheads and overheads across its revenue streams, then compare it with previous 2 years. Okay, you should evaluate the impact of these changes on the operating profit. In addition, please comment on reasons for bank overdraft at the end of each year, despite the huge profit in each year. So you need to start from here. They said analysis of key changes in revenue, cost and overhead. When someone say do the analysis of key changes, that is basically trend analysis. Okay, that means they want you to compute trend on revenue, cost and overhead across its revenue streams. So we have revenue streams and you need to look at all these things across the revenue streams. So you, so instead of doing the trend on the total income statement, so you rather do it on the revenue streams. Okay, then you could also have a total as well. You could have a total as well, right? Then, okay, fine. Of course, you need to compare with the 2 years. Then they now said that evaluate the impact of these changes on operating profit, on DFF's operating profit. So if you are looking at impact of changes on operating profit, that looks more like profitability kind of ratios to me, you know, because you are comparing cost and profit. Okay, you are comparing cost and profit. You are looking at the impact of cost on profit. So that looks like ratio, and the only thing I could think of is the profitability ratios. So what are the set of profitability ratios that fall into profitability ratios? Yes, we could have the return on capital employed, we go have the cost over, of course, cost over profit. If you are looking at, we are comparing cost and profit, we could have cost over profit, we could have gross profit margin, operating profit margin ratio, net profit margin ratio, we could have return on asset, we could have uh, we could have the various sets of profitability ratios. Okay, okay, so we have done with that. Then comment on the reasons for DFS bank overdraft at the end of each year, despite the huge profits in each year. So reason for bank overdraft. So you can then ask yourself, why what is bank overdraft? Bank overdraft is a short-term finance credit. Okay, it's a short-term finance credit, and the reason for overdraft is basically for working capital. Okay, so then if you are looking at working capital, it means for we to talk about working capital, then we could talk about the working capital efficiency ratios. where we have the receivable days, average receivable days, average inventory days, and average payable days. Okay. Then if you also want to go deeper into looking at the liquidity, that is possibly the liquidity, working capital and liquidity problem. Okay, then you could talk about the liquidity ratios, the current ratio and the acid test ratio. Okay, so this could be the set of ratios that we will compute. So we have seen that for requirement one, we are to do trend analysis, then do profitability and liquidity, profitability ratios, compute profitability ratios, compute working capital ratios, then compute liquidity ratios. This set of ratios will do fine. But I'm not saying you should compute all the ratios under each of these set of group of ratios. You need to pick the important ones, those ones you feel are very important for for your report. Then you pick them. Okay, you compute them. So so you go to your appendix. Okay, do the trend, you know absolute change and percentage change between 2017 and 2018, absolute change and percentage between 2018 and 2019. Then you compute your ratios. Okay, you compute your ratios and all that. So once you are done with computation of your computation, then you go back to section 1 to start writing. Okay, so for you to write, right for you to write, you have to follow a process. So there are 8 sub skills that you need to write under each of these, section 1 and section 2. Okay, so there is an acronym that you should use. Let me see if I can put that on the board. I want to see if I can put that on the board. Let me see where I can put the acronym. Yes. So let me put the acronym here. The acronym is DPA ISE CR. Okay. Okay. So the D stand for use of data and information. Use of data and information. Professional. The P stand for professional tools and knowledge, right? Then the A stand for analytical skill. The S stand for issues and options. I do call this internal. These are internal issues, right? Then the S stand for professional professional skepticism and ethics. And ethics Professional skepticism and ethics. Okay, professional skepticism and ethics. Then the E stand for evaluative skill and and judgment. Evaluative skill and judgment. Then C, conclusions. And lastly R, recommend recommend recommendations. Okay, so these are the 8 sub skills. These are the 8 sub skills that, or subsection, that you need to write under, for you to write the section 1 and section 2. Okay, so let's go on. So for the use of data and information, the idea is that you have been presented with lots of exhibits, right? And some of these exhibits are meant for uh, separate requirement. Let me put it that way. Okay, so we have some exhibits that are meant for financial statement analysis, the likes of, yes, from exhibit 9, exhibit 9, exhibit 9. Even in the precinct we have exhibit 5, we have exhibit 5, we have exhibit 9, right? We have exhibit 9, we have exhibit exhibit 5 and exhibit 9, right? Right. So exhibit 5 and exhibit 9, they are basically for financial statement analysis. So the use of data and information under financial statement analysis is saying that how has this person been able to use the data and information given for the financial statement? How have you been able to use it? That is it. But in case study and in financial statement analysis, right? What we will do under the use of data and information is to bring in the trends that we have computed. We are going to bring in the trends that you have computed and look at it. You are not going to put use of data and information there again. So you will change it to a befitting subheading that will show that you are bringing in trend. So you can say DFFP's trend analysis, or analysis of trends in DFFP's financial performance. Okay, that could be the heading. So what do you do? So you start picking, remember that under each of these sub skill, you have to make four statements, four relevant points, right? You have to make four relevant points. So I can pick items on the income statement, and each item, one item, I mean, let's say revenue, for instance, could be one item. Trend you can put on revenue could be one statement rather. That is a statement. So we can say DFSC revenue increased from 2017 to 2018 by 60% to the tune of about 12.9 million. And from 2018 to 2019 by 19% to the tune of 17.9 million. That is a statement. That is one mark. Okay. Then you could also talk about operating cost. That is another one mark. Okay, that's another mark. Then gross profit is another item. If you put trend, if you bring in the trend on that, that is another mark. Then operating profit, it's another item, and the statement is one mark. Okay, so that is that for use of data and information. Okay, you bring in the trends that you have computed. So once you leave that, then you go to professional tools and knowledge. The idea behind professional tools and knowledge is that, yes, I told you there are three analytical skill. Okay, and each of these skill have tools. So for financial statement analytical skill or technique, the major tools are the trend or common size analysis and the ratios. So we are bringing the trend here, then we are left with the what? With the ratios. Okay, so you cannot put professional tools and knowledge. You have to change the heading. So we can say DFF's financial. I don't want to think too much so that you don't waste time. I can say DFF financial ratios. You can put any heading. But the thing is that here we are bringing in our ratios. We are bringing in the ratios that we have computed, right? That is what we are doing here. So we are bringing in the ratios. So we have done profitability ratios. We have done we have done liquidity ratios. So you pick some of these ratios and bring them in. Okay, you might not bring all the ratios in right now because you are looking at four points under this part. So 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 what I did here, I brought in gross profit, right? The gross profit, uh the gross profit margin. Okay, Okay, I brought in the gross profit margin I for each of the revenue streams. Then I brought in return on capital employed. Okay. So because we were told to look at each of the revenue streams. So what I did there is, yes, the points we count on the revenue streams. Do you get it? The points we count on the revenue streams. So the gross profit margin was brought in on the revenue streams and the return on capital employed, right? So making 4 points there. Okay. Then once we are done with that, that is professional tools and knowledge. The next one is analytical skill. So the analytical skill, under the analytical, what we want to do is to analyze the to analyze the ratios that you have brought in. Okay, to analyze the ratios that you have brought in. So you see that the first thing here is the revenue streams. So you analyze those things under the revenue stream. So look at it. There has been a continuous growth in DFF revenue over the years. This could be linked. Okay, identification. Remember what I taught you the other time. You identify. So there has been growth in revenue streams. Okay, then explain what is the possible reason for the growth in revenue stream and the implication. This could be linked to the steady growth experienced in the revenue streams of fishery, poultry, cattle, and veggies, respectively. This suggests that then, that is the possible reason. Then the implication. This suggests that there is continuous demand for DFSP, farm product, and eventual sales. This growth potential should be maintained. So once you are able to, the analysis is just about you discussing, starting discussion around the ratios that you have computed, right? Start a discussion, identify the ratio, discuss the possible reason for the ratio. Then you make recommendation immediately, right? Please learn to make your recommendation immediately for the purpose of this exam, right? So you will do the same thing for all the ratios that you have brought in here. You did the same thing for all the ratios that you brought in there. So you can see the revenue, the gross profit for each of the revenue streams. Okay. Okay, then the working capital ratios as well, so that you can make comment on the what do you call it, on the reason for overdraft, right? So once you are done with that, that is professional tools. I mean, that is analytical skill. That is analytical skill, right? So after the analytical skill, yes, okay. Again, yes, yes, but it is possible you did not bring in all the ratios. You might have computed about five, 10, 5 or 10 ratios, because when we were analyzing the requirement, we identify like three group of ratios: the profitability ratio, working capital ratio, and the liquidity ratio. So under each of these groups of ratios, there are sub ratios, right? So so you for and you only have to make 4 points under that part, under the professional tools and knowledge. So you just brought in, let's say, minimum of 5 ratios. You only brought in 5 ratios. So it is those 5 ratios that you will still come and analyze here. Do you get it now? But is it the same ratios that you brought in here that you analyze here? It is still the same ratio. Okay. All right. Let me see. Yes, analysis and discussion of ratio. So once you are done with that, let me see the next thing. Analytical skill. This is where we stop. Then issues and option. Issues and option. The next thing is issues and option. So for issues and option, we are looking at we are looking at what are the other ratios that you have not brought in before. You can bring them in now under this part. Okay, so that you have more angles to the analysis. You have wider angle to the analysis. Okay, and that is one. you can bring in you can bring in the other ratios that you have not brought in. The other thing is that in some other instance, it might be that you should just repeat those ratios that you have brought in before and link them to internal factor and say and link the reasons to internal factors, you know, internal factors. You link the reason to internal, and you see that is why I put reason. And the idea is that for any business going through maybe any situation, whether good or bad, there should be two sides to it. You know, the internal factors should be there and the external factors. The internal factors is as a result of their strengths and weaknesses. The external factors are the opportunities and threats in the external environment, which is outside the control of the organization. Okay, so in some other instance, you might look at you might reinterpret those ratios that you have done earlier and link them to internal factors. Okay, those are just the two things you could do there. So instead, I think I now look at cost of sales. So I didn't bring in cost of sales before. I brought in cost of sales now. I brought in, I reinterpreted the growth in revenue. Then I also reinterpreted the gross profit margin. Then I looked at interest in finance, which I've not brought in that one before. Okay, okay. Then strength in I also interpreted the I reinterpreted the strength the revenue from card tool, okay, which I've brought in earlier. Okay, this just tell you that you can reinterpret them in another way. Okay, so that's about the issues and option. So one, for issues and option, is either you bring in some other ratios that you have not brought in before under analytical scale or under professional tools and knowledge and analytical scale, then you bring them here, or you reinterpret some of the ratios that you have talked about before, linking them to internal factors. So again, let me quickly go back to professional tools and knowledge and analytical scale. You see, for the purpose of teaching, that is why I've separated them. In the actual sense, you can combine them together, right? Immediately you are bringing in the ratio, okay, then you do the analysis at the same time. You can do that. Okay, I just need to point that out, so it can save you time. Okay, so the next thing is professional skepticism and ethics. So for professional skepticism is just the part where you professional skepticism is saying that as a professional, you don't just accept or believe every information and data presented to you by your client or by your employer. Okay, you should have a doubting mind to that information because you don't really know how true, how correct the information is. So you should have a doubting mind. So the same thing is applicable in case study. So you can't say professional tools and knowledge. You have to change the heading just like we have been doing before. So we have changed it to evaluation of information. Okay. Then yes, the management account has not been audited. So you can be skeptical about the accuracy and the fairness of the management account, you know. So why have they also been relying on bank overdraft despite the fact that they are making profit? You could yes, you can question them. So again, professional skepticism is also questioning. You are questioning information given to you. Okay, so that is that about professional skepticism. Then the other thing is evaluative skill and knowledge. Evaluative skill and knowledge. So for evaluative skill and knowledge, so you can see that here I said external. Okay, I didn't put it. So I'm supposed to put external. So issues and options are internal, evaluative skill and knowledge are external. So it means that we are looking at the impact of external factors on the performance. So you can see that it is still the same ratio that I brought in. I brought in some of those ratios I've brought in before and linked them to external factors. You know, the cost of sales, I link it to external factors. Then I brought in the selling and administrative expenses. So this one is just fresh ratio. Then I brought in this before. Okay. So I reinterpret it. Okay. So evaluating skill and judgment is just you linking the ratio to the reason for the ratio to external factors. Okay. So once you are done with that, then you move to conclusions. So you conclude on whatever you have done. You can see digital farm revenue is growing, based on trend and ratios. you know then gross profit is stable. Okay. Cost of sales is increasing. And so it's just for you to say, oh, these are the things that I've found out in the analysis. Then your recommendation is the easiest part. Okay, the recommendation is the easiest part. All the recommendation you have been making, just go and copy them and put them here. Okay, and list them here. That's the recommendation. You don't need to start thinking about recommendation. Okay, so it's the easiest part. Once you are done with the recommendation, then you start with the section 2. Okay, evaluation of contract supply and appraisal of meat processing plant. So you start the same process all over again. The same process all over again. So the first thing is use of data and information. Here you have to use information on the the focus of this requirement. So the information given to us on contract supply, we use it. The information given to us on meat processing plant, we use it. Okay, because they are like two. So the section 2 has two legs, so we have to tackle the two legs together, else we miss mark. If you focus on contract supply service alone, you will make marks on meat processing plant. Okay, so what are the information given to us on the meat processing plant? So I think in exhibit 4 or thereabout, we're given some information about this shop request bringing in the contract. Then we're also given information about the meat processing plant, still under the exhibit 4. And in the, I think, exhibit 10 or thereabout, we're given the contract. Sorry, still on the exhibit 4 or thereabout, we're given some information about those products that they will have to supply. Okay, so that is that about. So it's just for you to use information on that requirement. Okay, and remember, the focus here is on the contract supply and the meat processing plant. So we are using the information on that, on all the exhibit that pertains to that. Okay, so once you are done with that, then you are going to professional tools and knowledge. So for professional tools and knowledge, because there is no professional tools for the contract supply, so it means you will bring in the terms. You will bring in the terms of the contract supply, right? So the contract proposal from the shop has the following clauses, right? Then you bring in the some of the key terms in that contract supply, right? Then for the second leg, which is the NPV that you have computed for the meat processing plant, you see we are looking at the two legs at the same time, right? Then analytical scale. So analytical skill is when you discuss on all these things that you have brought in. I mean, where is it? Yes, all the terms and the NPV that you brought in here, you discuss them under the analytical scale. Okay, you discuss them under the analytical scale. Then after that, then issues and option. What are the other issues in the proposal and the meat processing plant? Okay, so maybe some other terms that you did not bring in earlier, you bring them in. You can reinterpret some of those ones again, and you discuss on the meat processing plant, right? Then evaluative skill and sorry, professional skepticism. This is professional skepticism. So the same process. What are the skeptical issues that surround the that surround the what do you call it, the contract supply and the meat processing plant? you know One of the skeptical issues is that they decide to This shop has decided to label digital farm products as though they are imported ones. Labeling a locally produced product as imported is unethical and could increase reputational risk of digital farms, as company name is a household name. Okay, so you make recommendation immediately. Okay, so you look at all those skeptical issues, you bring them in. Then after the skeptical issue, the evaluative skill and judgment, which is external. So what are the external factors that has affected that could affect the contract supply and the meat processing plant? Population could affect it. It means if they go into that contract, there are over 200 million Nigerians who could buy it, and they could buy from this shop as well. There is arable land, so they will be able to produce and supply to this shop. Post harvest loss could affect them negatively. Climate change could also affect them negatively. Okay, so once you are done with evaluating skill and judgment, then you make conclusion the same way we made conclusion the other time, and you also make recommendation. Okay, you make recommendation. So once you are done with recommendation, of course, before you start the section 2, you have computed your what do you call it, your appendix 2. You must have done that. Okay, so once you are done with conclusion and recommendation of section 2, then you come to executive summary and write the executive summary summary. Okay, so that is a very nice way, a very cool way to write your case study report. That's a very nice steps or cool steps that you could follow to write the report. Okay, but one other thing I've not mentioned is, there are three analytical technique. I've just taught you two now. This case tested just two of them, right? So the third one is the business analysis. So how do you deal with it? So for business analysis, so let's look at this acronym here. So the use of data is, you will use data on the business. Data given you on the business. So if you look at exhibit 3, we're given information about the business. That is the data, that is the information you will use under use of data and information. So professional tools and knowledge is the model. Whatever model that is applicable to the case, that is where you will bring in the model. If it is SWOT model, if it is PESTEP model, you define the model, you bring in the strength, you bring in the weaknesses, you bring in the opportunities and threats. You are not explaining them just the way we did under the other two. The analytical skill is when you now explain, you discuss on those item, on those factors of the SWOT that you brought in here, you discuss them here. So what are the other factors under the SWOT that you did not bring in? You can bring them in, or reinterpret the other ones that you brought in earlier, and say the possible reason, link those factors to internal factors. Okay, then professional skepticism, the same way we did that. Evaluative skill and judgment, so these are external factors and their impact on the business. Then conclusion and recommendation. So this is a very nice way to, nice steps to follow in writing your uh, case study report. Okay, okay, all right. So any any any